In 2013, Zipline's founder Keller Clifton walked into a health institute in Tanzania and was shown a computer database. It was a list of urgent medical requests, blood, vaccines, anti-venom, sent by rural health workers over SMS. Thousands of them, but most had gone unanswered because motorbikes couldn't reach the clinics in time. Clifton later described it as a database of people who had already died.
When you look at healthcare logistics, we really only do a good job of serving the golden billion people on Earth. If you're not in that golden billion, your access is probably non-existent.
At the same time, Google and Amazon were investing millions to build drone delivery programs. But these companies were focused on delivering packages for that golden billion. And they hadn't had much success. So Clifton had a simple question.
Why aren't there more startups that are tackling these global problems that are faced by billions of people in developing economies?
In 2011, Clifton and two co-founders from Harvard built a small, palm-sized robot called Romo. It was a plastic chassis with wheels that you plugged a smartphone into, and then the robot came to life, almost like a pet. Romo could chase your cat, respond to voice commands, and roll across the desk. The team came out of the Techstars Accelerator in Seattle, raised more than $100,000 on Kickstarter, and closed a $5 million round from Sequoia Capital. For a young engineer in his mid-20s, it looked like the perfect startup. But only 2 years later, Clifton was beginning to doubt the whole project. He didn't want to spend his life building a product that people used for a few months and then threw in a closet. Consumer robotics, he came to believe, was a hard business precisely because it wasn't solving a real problem. It was competing with apps and games for a few minutes of attention. As he put it later, "The more I thought about it, the harder it was to justify expending my energy on a consumer robotics product that probably wasn't going to work. Robots in the home are a notoriously tough space to crack, and I felt there were bigger problems I wanted to solve, bigger questions I wanted to answer." He wanted to find an important, repeatable problem that could be solved with automation, and he had an idea about where to find this problem. The next year, he took a trip to Tanzania, where he visited a warehouse storing healthcare supplies. Boxes of medical products sat in racks, stamped with expiration dates that had already passed. They had never made it out the door. He said, "The more we learned about it, the more it became clear to us that logistics was a really good place to focus." He had been invited by a researcher at the Ifakara Health Institute who had built a simple SMS ordering system for rural clinics. The system worked, and Clifton saw how orders came in from across the country. But the part that didn't work was the delivery. In many regions, 25 to 40% of temperature-sensitive medical products never reached the clinic that ordered them. The bottleneck was the rapid and reliable distribution of small, urgent packages across a landscape where roads might be impassable for months at a time, or where roads might not exist at all. When he returned to the US, Clifton and his co-founders shut their toy company down. They laid off most of the team, returned what they could to investors, and decided to start over with a new company aimed at a single challenge: improving logistics to deliver life-saving medical supplies in remote areas. In places where there might not even be a road for a delivery vehicle, Clifton and his co-founders, Keenan Weyerbeck and Will Hetzler, thought they could build a solution. With Clifton's experience in robotics and Hetzler's background in aviation, drone delivery seemed like the obvious solution. They quickly came up with a company name, Zipline, and an idea for a prototype. But before they could put their ideas to the test, the company needed money. Back in California, Clifton and his co-founders had almost nothing, just a concept for an autonomous drone that could carry medical supplies, and a belief that they could make it work.
For a lot of our investors, I think they had largely written the company off and were like, yeah, the company's just dead. It's not going to go anywhere. I mean, it just felt like chewing glass. It's incredibly difficult. You're totally emotionally raw. You have no idea if you're going to make it to the next week, let alone the next month. I think there were also a lot of questions like, what do you know about healthcare? Like, what do you know about aviation or aerospace? Like, you have no expertise. Like, why would you be able to succeed at this? That was probably the worst and most difficult time I've ever had to go through.
The drone they were designing had to carry a 1.5 kilogram payload, navigate in severe weather, and precisely deliver sensitive refrigerated items. No existing drone could do all three. And every time an investor asked to see a working prototype, they had to say they didn't have one yet. But as they started to build prototypes, and as those prototypes improved, The team realized they had another problem. They needed somewhere to actually test these drones. The US Federal Aviation Administration was drafting drone regulations in 2014 and 2015 with extreme caution. Permission to fly beyond the visual line of sight was nearly impossible to obtain. But without it, Zipline couldn't complete a real delivery. They really couldn't test their systems. And for a startup burning through a small seed round, they couldn't afford to wait for regulation to change. So the team started looking elsewhere. They were looking for a place with three things: an urgent, unmet need for medical supply delivery, terrain where logistics collapsed when roads failed, and a flexible view on drone operation regulations. That combination was hard to find, but one country in East Africa was perfect: Rwanda. Called the Land of a Thousand Hills, Rwanda has a predominantly rural population and a rainy season that regularly washes out the roads that hospitals depend on for blood. And unlike the United States, where drone regulation was being drafted cautiously by the FAA, the Rwandan Civil Aviation Authority was willing to write new rules quickly, including permission to fly beyond visual line of sight. Rwanda's willingness was deliberate. After the 1994 genocide, the country rebuilt itself around a specific thesis: that science, technology, and education were the path forward. As a result, economic growth has averaged around 7.5% a year since 2000. The government adopted a national science and technology policy in 2005 and built one of Africa's fastest growing economies on top of it. Fiber optic backbones, a growing tech sector in the capital Kigali, and a regulatory philosophy willing to quickly say yes to things that other governments might want to study for a decade. By the time Zipline arrived, Rwanda had already skipped over the infrastructure generation that much of the world built in the 20th century, going directly from unreliable landlines to mobile, from paper records to digital. Leapfrogging paving remote roads in favor of faster drone delivery fit the same pattern. With 2 distribution sites and drones with a 150-kilometer flight range, the Zipline team estimated that they could serve the entire country. And in 2016, Zipline signed a deal with the Rwandan Ministry of Health and built their first distribution center in Muhanga. The first product they needed to distribute was blood. And this is also one of the hardest things in the supply chain. Blood expires quickly, needs refrigeration, and every time it's needed, it's an emergency. Clifton has told a story about pitching a broader vision to Rwanda's Minister of Health, delivering every kind of medical product across the country, but being told gently to narrow his ambition and just start with blood. About half of transfusions in Rwanda go to mothers with postpartum hemorrhaging, and roughly a third to children with severe malaria. If Zipline drones could move blood fast enough to prevent even a small fraction of those deaths, the system would be a success. And so that's what Zipline focused on first. The operation was simple on paper. A doctor radios the Muhanga distribution center, a drone launches within a few minutes, and then blood lands outside a hospital in less than half an hour. That was the goal. But how could they actually achieve it? Tech giants had already spent billions trying to develop commercial drone delivery technology in the US with little success. How could Zipline succeed in the remote hills of Rwanda? The popular image of drone delivery came from Amazon. In 2013, Jeff Bezos went on 60 Minutes and promised Prime Air, packages arriving in your driveway within 30 minutes carried by a drone. It was a compelling demo, but more than 10 years later, Prime Air is still mostly a pilot program. Amazon's engineers are building a rotorcraft, a multi-rotor drone designed to hover and land with precision. It can descend into a yard or onto a rooftop, drop off a package on the ground, and then lift off again. But hovering and landing are complex operations that are mechanically expensive and prone to failure. In June 2021, a prototype lost a motor at 160 feet and fell in an uncontrolled tumble and set a wheat field on fire when the battery ignited. In 2022, 2 drones cut their power to their own propellers mid-flight and destroyed themselves on the test pad. And recent videos show drones dropping packages from over 10 feet in the air, damaging the products they're trying to deliver. Alphabet's Wing took a similar path and built a hybrid tilt rotor that could hover and drop packages. It works, and it's now delivering in a handful of suburban markets. But by early 2026, after more than a decade of work, Wing had completed just over 500,000 deliveries, where in the same time period, Zipline had completed over 2 million. That's because Zipline took a different path. When Keenan Weiwerbeck, Zipline's co-founder and chief engineer, started on the problem in 2014, His first instinct was to look for an off-the-shelf drone that he could modify. But after 6 months of conversations with every manufacturer he could find, he gave up. The ones I'd encountered either couldn't do the delivery, couldn't handle the range, or couldn't manage the weather. The rotor-based drones that other companies were designing at the time could hover, but they couldn't stay in the air long enough, couldn't carry enough, and couldn't fly in the rain. But a fixed-wing drone design could do all three. A fixed-wing drone flies like a small airplane. It doesn't hover and it can't pause mid-air, but because it generates lift from its wings rather than from rotors, it uses far less energy, which means it can fly farther. This design handles wind and rain like a plane, and for its size, it can carry significantly more than a rotor-based drone. The only problem with this design is landing. Like a plane, a fixed-wing aircraft needs forward velocity to stay airborne. That means it can't slow to a hover and gently descend to the ground. So, Zipline engineers eliminated the problem. They don't land the drones at the hospitals. Instead, the drone launches off a catapult. Then, at the delivery point, it flies over and drops the package by parachute. On the return trip, the drone catches a recovery wire and is pulled to a stop. The only question was, how do they make sure the payload lands exactly where it needs to? Hey, quick pause here. Every video you watch takes days, sometimes weeks, to research, write, and produce. I dig through technical reports, academic papers, and industry data, because I think these stories deserve to be told more clearly than they usually are. You can always find my script and full list of references in the description, and if you've been watching and you're not subscribed yet, subscribing is the easiest way to tell me this work is worth continuing. And if you want to go a step further, becoming a member is the best way to support this channel. Every dollar goes back into making better quality videos, and allows me to keep raising the quality of every video that I share. Let's get back to the story. Zipline drones navigate using GPS coordinates pre-mapped for each clinic. Then, instead of landing, the drone uses sensors to calculate wind speed on approach and releases a cardboard box attached to a paper parachute. The package, roughly the size of a shoebox, then lands within the area of just a few parking spaces. While seemingly a simple process, the team worked for months iterating on the design until they knew it would work every single time. The first generation of aircraft crashed into fields and fell out of trees. Voyager rebuilt them every time. But the night before Zipline's public debut in Rwanda, the drone they planned to use the next morning broke. Rwanda's president was arriving to launch the first flight in the morning, and international press was already in the country. Paul Willard, one of Zipline's earliest backers, described what follows. The team sprinted to fix it. I don't think Keller even had time to shower before the press conference. The drone that flew the next morning was held together with duct tape and scrap carbon fiber, and the debut was a success. And by 2024, Zipline had grown to serve hundreds of health facilities across 2 Rwandan distribution sites. Now, when a request for blood comes in, the distribution center is able to launch a drone within 90 seconds and deliver to almost anywhere in the country within a half hour. A recent study found that drone delivery shortened blood product delivery times by 61% and reduced blood unit expirations by 67%. A separate research found that maternal deaths from postpartum hemorrhage dropped by more than half in facilities served by Zipline. But that's not the end of the story. The system may have been successful in Rwanda, but can it work anywhere else? Zipline's first move outside Rwanda was to Ghana in 2019. The government signed a 4-year contract for up to 600 deliveries a day, and Zipline opened a distribution center that delivered yellow fever vaccines on its first flight. In Ghana, vaccine stockouts dropped by 60% in the region Zipline served, and one analysis in the northern part of the country associated drone delivery with a 56% reduction in maternal deaths. Now, Zipline is operating in Rwanda and several other locations around the world, with nearly 5,000 health facilities on the network when reaching almost 50 million people. And after the success in Africa, Zipline wanted to expand to the United States. However, moving this technology from the hills of East Africa to US suburbs required a complete redesign. The parachute drop system used in Rwanda was too imprecise for a residential neighborhood. To solve this, the team developed Platform 2. While the original aircraft is built for long-distance endurance, the newer model is a hybrid designed for precision. It uses rotors to hover at 300 feet and lowers a small motorized droid on a tether, landing a package within inches of a specific target. This precision and hybrid design has allowed Zipline to outpace the tech giants that first promised drone delivery years ago. While Amazon's Prime Air has been slowed by technical failures and regulatory caution, Zipline has partnered with Walmart in Arkansas and Texas, delivering groceries and retail goods, with plans to launch in at least 4 more states by the end of the year. As the company moves toward its goal of completing 100,000 deliveries annually by 2027, the focus is shifting from proving that drones can fly to proving that they can coexist. The future of autonomous logistics depends on solving the problem of deconfliction, which is the ability for multiple drones from different companies to share the same low-altitude airspace without human intervention. The long-term plan involves moving beyond a few pilot cities into a national network. There are still a lot of questions about what will happen if and when drone deliveries become more widely used, and the company's success in the coming years will likely depend on whether they can maintain the quiet reliability that made their work in Rwanda a success. By early 2026, the company had completed more than 2 million deliveries, with an aircraft launching somewhere in the world every 30 seconds. If you made it this far, thank you. These videos take a serious amount of work to put together, and the fact that you stayed through this whole thing tells me these stories are important to you. If you're not subscribed yet, now's a good time. And if you want to do more, becoming a member is the single best way to support this channel. Every membership directly supports making better quality videos and sharing more stories. And if you missed it, my last video covers the question of what happens to all the plastic that is cleaned up from the ocean. I'll see you in the next one.